Section 1. The night of shattered bonds, the night smelled of smoke and iron that I stood at the edge of the clearing, my breath fogging in the cold air, watching the bonfire roar high against the darkened sky. Wolves circled the flames in their human skins, their laughter sharp, their whispers sharper. Tonight was supposed to be the night my fate was sealed, the night my mate's mark would burn across my skin, binding us for eternity. Instead, I felt the first prickle of dread crawling up my spine. The moon goddess had spoken weeks ago, her light carving the truth into my very bones. He was mine, the alpha's son, the one every girl in the pack wanted. I had dreamt of him long before this night, imagined his lips on my neck, his promise whispered against my ear. But when his eyes found mine across the fire, I knew something was wrong, because there was no warmth in his gaze. Only disgust. Lena. His voice cracked the silence, and suddenly every pair of eyes turned toward me. The pack, the elders, the warriors, every soul hungry for spectacle that I forced myself forward, my dress catching the firelight, my pulse a drumbeat in my ears. He stood tall, shoulders broad, jaw clenched like a man who'd rather be anywhere but here. "You are not my mate," he said. The words flat, deliberate, cruel. The laughter died instantly. A hush spread like a wave, and I felt the ground tilt beneath me. My breath caught in my chest. "What did you say?" His eyes, those amber eyes that once made me dream, burned with cold fury. "The moon goddess made a mistake. I don't want you. I reject you." Lena of the Crescent Pack. The bond snapped like glass inside me. A howl tore from my throat, raw and broken. Pain lanced through my veins, white hot, as though claws ripped me apart from the inside. I fell to my knees, clutching at the earth, trembling as the rejection crushed me. My wolf whimpered, retreating into the darkest corners of my soul. "Please." The word escaped before I could swallow it. Humiliation burned hotter than the fire. My voice cracked like a child's, begging for something I should never have had to beg for. But he only turned away. The pack's whispers rose, sharp, venomous. "She's weak, unworthy. How could the moon goddess choose her?" No one reached for me. Not even my parents. I staggered to my feet, my chest hollow, my world caving in. And in that moment, I made a vow. If the goddess had cursed me with his rejection, then I would carve my own fate from the ashes. That I would leave this place. And when I returned, it would not be as the broken girl they mocked. It would be as the storm they never saw coming. The years that followed bled together in shadows and steel. That I left the Crescent Pack that night, barefoot, heart shattered, body trembling with the remnants of a bond that never was. The forest swallowed me whole, its silence a mercy compared to the cruel voices of those I once called kin. The rogues found me before dawn. They should have torn me apart. A girl alone, fragile, bleeding from a wound deeper than flesh. But instead, they circled me like wolves unsure of prey. Something in me, rage, perhaps, or the remnants of the goddess's curse, made them pause. Their leader, a scarred man with silver eyes, looked into mine and saw not weakness, but fired. He offered me a choice: die on the forest floor or rise as something more. I chose to rise. Training became my salvation. Every dawn was a war against my own body, muscles torn, bones bruised, lungs screaming for air. They taught me to fight, to move like shadow and strike like fawn. They taught me to bury pain, to wield it as a blade. Slowly, the girl who had once wept in front of a pack became someone else. Someone the Crescent Wolves would never recognize. But beneath the steel and scars, the memory of that night burned on. His face, his rejection, the smirk of those who watched me fall. It haunted my dreams and fed my resolve. And then, one night, the goddess came again. The moon rose blood red, and her voice slid through my veins like fire. "It is time. Time to return. Time to show them what they made." Now, as I stand at the edge of the Crescent territory once more, years older, sharper, my heart no longer trembles. My cloak whips in the wind, the scent of pine and rain filling my lungs. The guards will not recognize me, not with the scars hidden beneath my leather, not with the power that now hums beneath my skin. But fate is cruel, and as I step into the clearing where it all began, my heart seizes, because he is there to my mate. My rejector, the alpha now, and when his gaze meets mine, something flickers in his eyes, something he cannot hide: shock. recognition, and beneath it all, fear. Section 2. Whispers in the dark. The bonfire clearing had not changed. The earth still bore the faint scorch marks of flames that once lit up my ruin. The same stones circled the pit, the same moss crept across the ground, and the same scent of pine and ash clung to the air. Yet everything felt smaller now, as though I had outgrown this place, leaving only ghosts behind. And then there was him, the Alpha, my once mate, the man who had shattered me. His golden eyes locked onto mine across the distance, just as they had years ago. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. The murmurs of his warriors, the rustle of leaves, even the wind itself seemed to pause. He had expected me to be gone forever. Instead, here I stood, cloaked in shadow, a phantom from the past he had tried to erase. But unlike that trembling girl on her knees, this time, I did not flinch. I let silence stretch between us. A rope drawn taut. His jaw ticked once, betraying the storm beneath his composed mask. I almost smiled at the flicker of fear in his eyes, because fear meant power. The pack had not yet gathered. Only a few guards flanked him, their weapons glinting faintly in the moonlight. One of them stepped forward, suspicion heavy in his voice. "Alpha, should we leave us?" His tone was iron. The guards hesitated but obeyed, melting back into the shadows of the trees. Now it was only us. I pulled my hood lower, hiding the curve of my jaw, the scar that traced my temple, the woman I had become. He did not deserve to see her yet. Not until I chose. "You shouldn't be here," he said finally, voice low, dangerous. "Neither should you," I murmured back. "But here we are." His eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, each movement deliberate, predatory. For a moment, I thought he might bare his teeth the way wolves do when cornered. Instead, he studied me, as though searching for a piece of me he once knew. "Smell familiar," he said, almost to himself. That I forced my heart to steady. My wolf stirred uneasily inside me, aching at the sound of his voice, but I caged her back with iron will. He could not know. "Not yet, do I?" My tone was light, mocking, his gaze sharpened. "Who are you?" For a flicker of a heartbeat, I wanted to tell him, to rip away the hood and let him choke on the truth. To see his perfect composure shatter when he realized the mate he had cast aside had returned. Stronger, deadlier, unbroken. But revenge is not won in a single breath. "I'm no one," I said, stepping back into the shadows. "Just a traveler passing through." His lip curled faintly, not believing me, yet not daring to push further. Alpha though he was, the bond between us, the one he thought destroyed, still pulsed faintly, unseen but undeniable. He could not place it, but he felt it. I saw the confusion flicker across his features, the way his chest rose a little sharper, as though some buried part of him was restless. Good. Let him wonder. Let him burn. "I should kill you," he muttered, almost as if reminding himself. "You won't," I whispered back, and we both knew I was right. That I left him standing there, golden eyes searing into my back as I melted into the forest. My heart thundered, not with fear, but with something more dangerous, something I had not expected, because beneath the satisfaction of unsettling him, beneath the cold fire of my revenge, I felt the tug, the bond, the one he had tried to sever. That it should have been gone. It should have died the night he rejected me. Yet as the moon spilled silver across my path, I could still feel it, faint but real, pulling me toward him like an invisible chain. And that terrified me more than his power ever could. That I made camp deep in the woods, far from the eyes of the Crescent Pack. My fire was small, hidden beneath a cluster of rocks to keep the smoke low. Shadows wrapped around me like a second skin, and still I could not stop replaying his face in my mind. He hadn't recognized me. Not yet. But some part of him knew. That I leaned back against a tree, staring at the stars until my eyes blurred. The rogues had taught me many things, but they had not taught me how to silence a heart that still ached for what it had lost. "Foolish," I muttered to myself. "You came for revenge. Nothing more." But my wolf stirred, restless, whispering truths I refused to hear. The next day, I walked the village paths in silence. Cloaked, hood drawn low, I was just another wanderer in the market crowd. But I saw them, the children laughing in the dust, the women hanging herbs to dry, the men sharpening blades for the hunt. My people, once mine, now strangers, their scents wrapped around me. Pine, smoke, honey, wild earth. each one a reminder of what I had lost. And then, suddenly, I froze that he was there again. The Alpha, speaking with his beta near the training grounds. His laugh was short, sharp, nothing like I remembered, but the sound still rattled something deep inside me. He moved like a man used to command, every step measured, every gesture precise. And as though pulled by an invisible thread, his head lifted. Our eyes met. For the briefest moment, the world narrowed to just us. His gaze lingered, puzzled, drawn, as though he could not look away. I lowered my head, slipping into the press of the crowd, but I knew it was too late. He had felt it again. That spark neither of us could deny. The bond was not dead, and if I wasn't careful, it might destroy me all over again. That night, his voice haunted my dreams. "Who are you?" The question echoed through me, burning, demanding an answer. But when I woke beneath the cold stars, I had none to give. Only this. I was the girl he had rejected. The woman who had returned stronger. And soon, very soon, he would remember me. Section 3. The wolf inside the shadows. The market square buzzed with life, but I felt him long before I saw him. The air shifted, heavy, charged, like the moment before a storm. My wolf stirred restlessly inside me, ears pricked, heart thudding. I didn't have to turn to know his eyes were on me again. The bond pulled like a thread through my ribs, a thread I wanted desperately to sever but couldn't. That I kept moving. The stallkeeper handed me a bundle of herbs wrapped in parchment. I thanked him quietly, pulling the hood lower over my face. Every instinct screamed at me to disappear into the crowd before he reached me, before his scent wrapped around me and cracked the walls I'd built. But fate has never cared for walls. "Traveler." His voice slid through the noise, low and commanding that I froze. The villagers glanced up at him with respect, some bowing their heads. He was their alpha now, strong, revered, untouchable. But to me, his voice was a blade, carving open wounds I had spent years stitching closed. Slowly, I turned. There he was, taller than I remembered, his shoulders broader, his presence heavier. The golden in his eyes burned like sunlight against my shadows. For a heartbeat, the world shrank until it was only us. Yes. My voice was calm, cool. His gaze roamed over me, sharp, searching, like claws trying to peel away my disguise. "You move through my territory as though you belong." I tilted my head slightly. Should I crawl instead? A muscle ticked in his jaw. His beta shifted uncomfortably at his side, glancing between us, but the alpha silenced him with a single raised hand. His focus never left me. "There's something about you," he said, softer this time. "Something I can't place." I smirked beneath the hood, though my pulse hammered. "Maybe you're imagining things." He stepped closer, and my wolf whimpered inside me, clawing at my chest. I buried her deep, forcing stillness into my limbs. "I don't imagine," he said. "Not when it comes to my pack. Not when it comes to bonds." The last word hung heavy between us, unspoken truth glinting beneath it. His eyes flickered, confusion threading through their fire. He felt it too. The tether, the invisible pull neither of us could deny. Dangerous. This was dangerous that I lowered my gaze, forcing a laugh that sounded steadier than I felt. "You give yourself too much credit, Alpha." His jaw tightened, but before he could press further, a shout rang out from the far end of the square. Two young wolves tumbled into view, brawling, scattering crates of apples. The crowd swelled with noise, pulling his attention away. Saved by chaos that I slipped into the shifting bodies, vanishing like smoke before he could turn back. That night, I didn't sleep. That I sat by my small fire in the forest, staring into the flames, replaying his voice in my head. "There's something about you." He was close to the truth, too close. Every instinct told me to leave, to abandon this dangerous game before he pieced it together. But then I remembered the night of my rejection, the way his words had cut, the way the pack had laughed, the way my soul had shattered in front of them all. No. Leaving was not an option. I would stay. I would haunt him with shadows and half-truths until his certainty crumbled. And when the moment came, when he finally saw the truth of who I was, I would watch his pride bleed into the dirt. Days passed that I stayed hidden, slipping into the village at dawn or dusk, careful to keep my head low. I studied the pack from the edges, their routines, their strengths, their weaknesses. I told myself it was strategy, preparation for the revenge I had promised, but in truth, my eyes sought him. Always him. The Alpha trained with his warriors at sunrise, his movements fluid, lethal, every strike of his blade precise. I watched from the tree lean, my fingers twitching, remembering the countless hours of blood and sweat I had spilled to learn the same discipline. Once, I had been weak under his gaze. Not anymore. And sometimes, when he thought no one was looking, his expression shifted. The mask slipped, revealing something raw beneath the surface. A man haunted, a man carrying burdens. Even his wolves could not see that I should not have cared. But I did point one evening. I nearly slipped. The sky bled crimson as the sun dipped low, and I lingered too long near the training grounds. The warriors had gone, their laughter fading into the distance, but he remained, alone, driving his blade into the straw dummy again and again, sweat darkening his shirt that I should have left. But instead, I stayed, my breath caught in my throat, watching him with a hunger I didn't want to name. Then he stopped. Slowly, deliberately, he turned toward the trees. "Come out," he said. Voice steadied. My heart lurched. I didn't move. "I know you're there." His tone was sharper now, edged with alpha command. "I can smell you." My pulse hammered. Could he? Was the bond bleeding through my disguise, betraying me with every breath? I stepped back, the twigs snapping underfoot. His head tilted, his golden eyes narrowing as they pierced the shadows. For one terrifying second, I thought he would see me. Truly see me, but a howl echoed from the village. Urgent, desperate. His beta's voice rang out. "Alpha, rogues on the border." He cursed under his breath, snatched his blade, and ran. I sank against the tree, breath ragged, sweat cold on my skin. That was too close. Much too close. Later, as the forest settled into silence again, I whispered to the flames at my camp, "You won't find me yet." But my wolf stirred in protest, her voice soft, aching. "He already has." Section 4. Fire at the border. The night split open with howls that I heard them long before the Crescent warriors did. The jagged cries of rogues slicing through the forest, wild and untamed. My body tensed instantly. Rogues did not come this close to pack land without reason. I stood on the edge of the tree lean, the faint glow of crescent torches visible in the distance. Shouts echoed through the village, boots striking dirt, steel ringing as warriors armed themselves. And at the center of it all was him, the Alpha. He barked orders with precision, his voice carrying like thunder. Warriors snapped into formation, shields raised, spears gleaming under the moonlight. My chest tightened against my will, because there was no denying the sight. He was power incarnate. A leader born, but power attracts enemies. The rogues came like a tide, spilling into the clearing, their eyes glowing red with bloodlust. The clash was immediate, metal against fong, growls against screams that I should have stayed hidden. This wasn't my fight, and yet, my wolf surged forward inside me, restless, furious, aching to join the fray. I had lived among rogues, learned their ways, but I was not theirs. Not anymore. My fists clenched. Then I saw him falter. The Alpha fought at the front, blades flashing, but the rogues swarmed him like moths to flame. He cut one down, then another, but for every body that fell, two more pressed forward. And in that chaos, one rogue slipped behind him, jaws wide, teeth gleaming for his throat. My body moved before thought could stop it. I tore through the shadows, my hood ripping free, my blade catching moonlight as I drove it into the rogue's side. Blood sprayed hot against my arm as the beast crumpled at my feet. For a moment, silence. Then his eyes, those golden eyes, locked onto mine. Recognition flickered. Shock. And something else I refused to name. "You, focus." I snapped, spinning to block another rogue lunging at him. My blade met claws, sparks flying, and together we shoved the beast back into the dirt. We fought as though we had trained side by side all our lives. His strikes were precise, mine ruthless, each movement instinctively complementing the other. I hated how natural it felt, how seamless, as though the bond had never been broken. When the last rogue fell, the clearing rang with heavy breaths and the stench of blood. The warriors dragged bodies away, the beta shouting orders, but his attention, his entire focus, remained on me. I pulled my hood back up quickly, heart racing. Too much. I had shown too much, but he stepped closer, eyes burning through the shadows. "You saved me," he said, voice rough. I forced a shrug. Don't flatter yourself. I saved myself. You just happened to be in the way. His lips twitched, half amusement, half frustration. He wasn't used to being dismissed. Not by anyone. Who are you? His voice was quieter now, almost a plea. The bond trembled between us, fragile yet undeniable. My wolf howled inside me, desperate to close the space, to confess, to belong. But I forced steel into my spine. No one, I whispered. And you do well to forget me. I turned sharply, disappearing into the trees before he could follow him. My hands shook by the time I reached my camp. The blade was slick with blood, my cloak torn, my breath uneven. But it wasn't the fight that rattled me. It was him, the way he had looked at me. As though he knew. I dropped to my knees by the fire, pressing my palms into the dirt. Fool, I hissed at myself. You're playing with fire. But fire was all I had left. The next day, the forest whispered of me that I heard the guards patrolling in heavier numbers, their voices carrying through the trees. The Alpha says there was a stranger. A woman. Helped him in the fight. She's no ordinary rogue. No. She moved like one of us. Their words made my blood run cold. It was starting. The questions, the suspicions. My mask was cracking faster than I intended. I stayed away from the village that day, hunting deeper in the wilds, reminding myself why I had returned. Revenge. Not bonds. Not love. But that night, as I lay staring at the stars, his face returned to me. The way he had fought by my side. The way he had looked at me after. And worst of all, the way it had felt right. 3 nights later, he came down. I heard him before I saw him. His footsteps steady, deliberate, each one drawing closer to my campfire. My heart lurched. No one should have found me here. Not unless they were following a trail I had not meant to leave. The flames licked at the night as he stepped into the clearing. Golden eyes catching the firelight. My breath stilled. He said nothing at first. Only studied me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. I sat straighter, refusing to let him see the way my pulse betrayed me. You're hiding, he said finally. And you're trespassing. His mouth curved slightly, though his eyes remained hard. You fight like one of us. Move like one of us. But no wolf I know hides their face as you do. I clenched my jaw. Maybe you don't know as much as you think. He took a step closer. The firelight painted shadows across his sharp features. And for a moment, I saw not the Alpha who had rejected me, but the boy I had once dreamt of, the boy who had smiled at me before he learned to hate me. I should bring you in, he said. Demand answers. A stranger this close to my pack is a threat. I lifted my chin. Then why haven't you? The silence stretched. His throat worked, his fists clenched, but he didn't answer, because he couldn't. Because the bond still lived, whispering between us, pulling at him as fiercely as it pulled at me. At last, he exhaled. I don't know who you are, but I will find out. His words were a vow, carved deep into the night. And though my blood ran cold, a part of me, the traitorous, aching part, almost wanted him to succeed. Section 5, The Alpha's Pursuit. The forest no longer felt like mine. Ever since the night he found my camp, the air carried his presence. His scent lingered where it shouldn't, fresh pine and iron, a thread of dominance that seemed to seep into the soil itself. Every step I took, I half expected him to appear again, golden eyes burning, demanding truths I refused to give. I had spent years mastering silence, moving like shadow, unseen and untouchable. But now, he was unraveling me one glance at a time. And worse, I wasn't stopping him. 2 days passed before I saw him again. I was crouched at the riverbank, rinsing blood from my blade after hunting. The water rippled silver beneath the moon, the night quiet save for the rustle of leaves. My hood was down. I had grown careless. Then the silence shifted. I stiffened, blade in hand. How long do you plan on following me? His voice came from behind, low, steady. Long enough to get answers. I turned, slow and deliberate. He stood at the tree-lean, arms crossed, posture relaxed, but gaze sharp. He looked nothing like the boy who had rejected me, and everything like the Alpha he had become. Calm, calculating, dangerous. Answers to what? I asked coolly. To why every time I breathe near you, my wolf claws at me. To why I feel. He broke off, jaw clenching, as though even speaking the words cost him something. You're no ordinary stranger. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. The bond tugged, invisible and merciless, daring me to close the space between us. My wolf whimpered, desperate to answer his. But I forced my face into stillness. I told you, I said, sheathing the blade. I'm no one. You keep saying that. His eyes burned brighter. And yet every part of me knows you're lying. He moved closer, slow enough not to startle me, close enough that the night air carried his heat. My breath caught despite myself. His presence filled the clearing, heavy, suffocating, intoxicating. Why hide your face? He asked softly. Maybe I like shadows. Or maybe you're afraid of what I'll see. The words cut too close. I shifted back, but his hand shot out, catching my wrist. His touch seared into me, electricity sparking along the bond. My wolf howled in my chest, pressing forward, aching to bridge the gap. I yanked free, the motion sharp. Don't. For a moment, silence. His chest rose and fell with ragged breaths, his fists clenching at his sides as though holding himself back from something reckless. Then he stepped away, the fire in his gaze dimming, replaced by something almost wounded. You saved me that night, he said. And yet you run from me like I'm the enemy. I forced a bitter smile. Maybe you are. He left then, retreating into the shadows. But not before his eyes lingered on me one last time. Heavy with questions neither of us dared to speak. When he was gone, I collapsed to my knees by the river, heart pounding, hands trembling. What was I doing? Every moment with him chipped away at my resolve. I had come here to destroy him, to shatter him the way he had shattered me. But instead, I was caught in a dangerous dance. One step too close to the edge, and I hated myself for wanting to fall. The days blurred after that. He was everywhere, at the market, in the training grounds, even in the quiet paths of the forest. Not always close, but near enough that I felt him. Watching, waiting, testing my walls with silence and stolen glances. And the more he lingered, the more I felt it. The pull. The tether that refused to die, no matter how hard I tried to sever it. One evening, I found him waiting at the edge of my camp again. You're relentless, I muttered. Setting down the bundle of firewood I carried, he smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. Alphas don't stop until they have what they want. And what do you want? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Dangerous. Reckless. His gaze darkened, and for a moment, he looked at me as though he wanted to tear down every wall I had built. I don't know, he admitted. But every time you walk away, it feels wrong. And every time I see you, it feels like. He stopped himself, swallowing hard. Like you're mine. My breath hitched. My wolf surged, aching, clawing, desperate to howl her truth. But I smothered her back into silence. You're imagining things, I whispered, his jaw flexed, but he didn't argue. Instead, he turned his gaze to the fire, the flames reflecting in his eyes like molten gold, for a long moment. We sat in silence, two wolves circling a truth too dangerous to name. That night, after he left, sleep evaded me. The fire burned low, and the forest hummed with life, but all I could hear was his voice. Like you're mine. Once, he had said the opposite. Once, he had looked me in the eye and told me I was nothing. The memory should have fueled my hate, should have steadied my resolve. But hate is a fragile shield when the bond still beats beneath your skin, and I feared the longer I stayed, the more it would shatter. Section 6. Shadows and storms. The storm outside hadn't relented by the time Elias placed the steaming mug in front of me. Chamomile, he said, though I doubted he bought it from any store. Everything about him seemed too wild, too untamed, as though he belonged to the forest rather than the village beyond it. I wrapped my fingers around the cup, letting the warmth seep into me. My skin prickled from more than just the heat. His nearness was unsettling, comforting, and dangerous all at once. You shouldn't have been out there alone, Elias said finally, his voice low, gravelly. The woods. They're not safe at night. I lifted my gaze to his, trying to read the storm that swirled in those dark eyes. You talk about these woods like they're alive. They are, he said, without hesitation. That a shiver worked its way down my spine. He didn't laugh, didn't correct himself, didn't even soften the weight of his words. He believed it, and the strangest part? Some buried part of me believed it. I tried to distract myself by sipping the tea, though I couldn't taste much beyond the pounding of my own pulse. Why did you help me? I asked. His eyes lingered on me for a moment too long before he leaned back in his chair, as though distance could undo the tension strung tight between us. Would you rather I hadn't? No, but I trailed off, searching for the right words. You don't even know me. A muscle ticked in his jaw, but he said nothing. Silence settled between us, broken only by the crackle of the fire. The storm outside roared like a living thing, rain hammering the roof, thunder growling low and menacing. I should have been afraid of being trapped here with him. Instead, I was afraid of how much I didn't want to leave. I set the mug down, suddenly restless. I should go back to the village tomorrow. People will notice I'm gone. He didn't flinch, didn't argue. He simply studied me, as if trying to decide whether I was speaking the truth or lying to myself. If that's what you want, Elias said evenly. But the way his voice wrapped around the words, too careful, too controlled, told me everything I needed to know. He didn't want me to leave, and I wasn't sure I wanted to either. I pushed up from the chair, pacing toward the window. Lightning split the sky again, revealing the stretch of trees that had always felt like a cage to me. Tonight, they looked like a gate, a threshold to something darker, stranger, and maybe, just maybe, freer. Do you live here alone? I asked, still staring out at the forest. Yes. His tone was clipped. The pause afterward was heavy, like there was something he wasn't saying. Something he couldn't. I turned back, my curiosity outweighing my restraint. Do you always bring strangers home? That earned me the ghost of a smile. Only the ones who matter, he murmured, and for a heartbeat, the air between us seemed to catch fire. I swallowed hard, trying to hide the sudden warmth rushing through me. And why do I matter? I asked, my voice low, almost daring. Elias's eyes softened, though the storm raging in them never fully left. I don't know yet, he admitted. But I feel it. Something about you. I can't ignore. My wolf stirred inside me, restless and aching. The bond, the tether we could neither name nor break, was pulling tighter with every heartbeat. I had spent years denying it, hiding from it, but now that pull was undeniable. You shouldn't feel that, I whispered, more to myself than to him. His gaze caught mine, unwavering. Why not? Because if he knew, everything I had built would crumble. Because if he knew, he might claim me, and I wasn't ready to be his, yet. Not until I had revenge. Not until he remembered exactly what he had lost that I forced myself to look away, to focus on the fire dancing in the hearth. You don't understand, I said softly. There are things you can't know. Things you shouldn't. He stepped closer, until the space between us was almost unbearable. Try me, he said, voice low, full of danger and promise. That I felt the storm outside echoing the storm inside me, wild and untamed. My fingers curled around the edge of the table, knuckles white. I can't, I whispered, and in that moment, our eyes locked, a silent understanding passing between us. Two souls tangled by fate, by bond, by fire, and yet divided by secrets and pride. That I had come for revenge. But somewhere along the way, Elias had found a piece of me I hadn't intended to give. The night stretched on, heavy with unspoken words, unshared truths, and the pulsing electricity of something neither of us dared name. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, two hearts beat faster, closer than either wanted to admit, and I knew, with a sudden, terrifying clarity, that the next move could change everything. Section 7. The edge of discovery. The dawn came too quickly, sharp and cold, slicing through the forest with silver light. That I had spent the night awake, replaying Elias's words over and over, the warmth of his gaze haunting me more than the storm ever could. Every instinct in my body screamed that I was walking a razor's edge. One wrong move, one glance, one slip, and he would know. And he shouldn't know. Not yet. That I moved quietly through the undergrowth, hunting for food, keeping low, keeping hidden. My leather boots pressed softly into the damp earth. Every snapping twig, every rustle of leaves, sent a jolt of caution through me. Elias was near. I could feel it in the bond. A pull I had tried to resist, but couldn't. He had not returned to the village last night. Good. That gave me a small advantage, or so I thought. By midday, I had cornered a hare. Crouched low, muscles coiled, blade at the ready. And then I sensed him before I saw him. You're slow today? My body froze. Golden eyes, sharp and unyielding, gleamed from the shadows of the trees. Elias stepped forward, arms crossed, expression unreadable, but his presence overwhelming. Elias, I said, forcing calm into my voice. What are you doing here? He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. I could ask you the same thing. I tightened my grip on my blade. I'm hunting. Alone. Leave me be. Alone. His tone lifted, teasing, dangerous. Is that how you've survived all these years, Lena? Alone in the wilds, hiding from the world. I flinched slightly at the use of my name. No one had called me that in years. Only the bond, only he, ever had the right. My jaw clenched, but I forced myself to remain standing. I survived, I said simply. He took a step closer, each movement measured, predatory. But at what cost? The bond throbbed, pulling us together despite every rational thought screaming at me to stay away. My wolf growled softly, warning, pleading, aching. I forced it down, hiding the tremor in my chest. You're trespassing, I hissed, trying to regain control. Back away. Do you want me to? He asked, voice low, dangerous. Or do you want me to keep pressing until you tell me the truth? My heart pounded so violently it hurt. I had trained myself to fight, to kill, to survive, but this was different. He wasn't a rogue. He wasn't an enemy. He was the one person who could undo me without touching me. I pressed the blade forward, a warning. I won't let you get close. Finally, the rogue fell, groaning and defeated. The forest seemed to exhale with us. The storm in the sky echoing the fire between us. Elias turned toward me, chest heaving, eyes shining with adrenaline, and something else I wasn't supposed to see. Vulnerability. Trust. A dangerous openness that made my pulse spike. You're strong, he said softly, voice rough with unspent tension. Not just your wolf, you. Lena, you're incredible. My wolf ached inside me, desperate to claim him, desperate to give in to the bond. I swallowed, forcing my voice steady. It's not about strength. It's about survival. And you don't survive by trusting. Elias stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him, the faint brush of his coat against my sleeve. Maybe not, he admitted, voice low and dangerous. But maybe some things are worth risking. My chest tightened, the words slicing through me. The pull of the bond, the ache of our connection, and the promise of something more twisted together until I could barely breathe. The forest seemed to hold its breath around us, shadows stretching and bending like they were aware of the tension that hung heavier than the storm clouds overhead, that I had come for revenge. But in that charged silence, I realized the terrifying truth. I wasn't sure whose heart I wanted to break, and whose I wanted to save. The bond throbbed between us. A living thing, a warning, and a temptation. And for the first time in years, I wondered if survival was about more than hiding. Section 9. Secrets. At the edge, the morning mist clung to the forest like a shroud, damp and heavy. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the drip of water from the canopy, felt amplified, as if the world itself was holding its breath. I moved quietly, alert, my senses stretched to the limit. My wolf prowled beneath my skin, restless and impatient. It was a warning I could not ignore. Elias was near. I had expected him to return to the village, to leave me to my hunt, my solitude, my plans. But no, he was persistent, relentless in a way that made my pulse hammer in frustration, and something deeper, something I wasn't ready to name. Lena. The voice was soft, calm, yet carried a weight that sent shivers down my spine. I froze. Elias stepped from behind a cluster of silver birch, his golden eyes fixed on me. His stance was casual, but his muscles were coiled like a spring ready to strike. I could smell the faint tang of iron and pine on him, the alpha scent that made my wolf whine inside me. You shouldn't be out here alone, he said, stepping closer. I can handle myself, I replied, voice steady despite the heat creeping into my cheeks. He smiled faintly, and I felt my resolve wobble. I don't doubt it, but every time I find you, I see more than just your strength. I see. He paused, searching my eyes. Something you're hiding. I stiffened. My wolf growled low in my chest, urging caution. He didn't know, couldn't know, who I really was. If he did, everything would fall apart. My plan for revenge, the careful armor I had built around my heart, even the fragile sense of control I still had, it would all crumble. I'm not hiding anything, I said too quickly. Elias's gaze sharpened. Then why do I feel it? The bond between us. It's not natural. It pulls me toward you, Lena, and I can't ignore it, no matter how hard I try. My wolf snarled inside me. He was too close, too perceptive, too relentless. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice calm. You're imagining things. The bond. It's nothing. Nothing. His lips twitched in a half-smile. I don't think so. Every time you run, every time you hide, I feel it screaming. It wants me closer. It wants you to trust me. I averted my gaze, staring at the mist-covered ground. The pull between us was undeniable, relentless, like a tide dragging me toward him. My hands shook, though I tried to disguise it. I can't, I whispered. Why? His voice softened, almost desperate. Why can't you let me in? Why do you push me away when everything about me wants to protect you? I wanted to tell him. I wanted to tell him everything. My past, my survival, the truth about my wolf. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because if I did, I risked more than my heart. I risked my plan for revenge, and worse. I risked him. Because some things, I said finally, are better left alone. He stepped closer, the distance between us shrinking until I could feel his heat against my skin. His golden eyes held mine, searching, relentless. The bond flared, wild and untamed, threatening to expose everything. You don't have to do this alone, he said softly. I can help. Let me. Please. My heart betrayed me. My wolf cried out in longing, aching for his touch, for the bond to be acknowledged, for the walls to crumble. I wanted to. Oh, I wanted to. Let him see everything. But fear twisted inside me like a knife. I can't. I repeated, voice firmer, though it shook. Not yet. Not until the time is right. Elias hesitated, his jaw tightening. Then, slowly, he nodded, as though accepting a truth he didn't like, but could not change. Then I'll wait, he said quietly. But know this. Every day you hide from me, the bond only grows stronger. And one day, Lena, I'll find out. I clench my fists, trembling. Maybe you will. The forest seemed to breathe around us, leaves quivering, mist curling at our feet. The moment stretched, fragile and sharp, a suspended thread between desire and fear. Then movement in the trees that a rogue pack, bold or foolish, had strayed too close. Elias stiffened instantly, instincts kicking in. His hand went to the hilt of his blade. I felt the surge of adrenaline, the dangerous thrill of being close to him while threats loomed. Stay close. He ordered, eyes scanning the shadows that I obeyed, my wolf quieting slightly in deference. Together, we slipped through the mist, side by side, moving with deadly precision. Every motion spoke of training, of instinct, of a bond neither of us dared fully acknowledge, but both felt pulsing like fire. The rogue pack emerged, snarling, eyes glowing red. Elias didn't hesitate. He leapt forward, striking with lethal precision, while I followed, weaving through the chaos. The fight was brief, brutal, and synchronized, our movements instinctive. I couldn't deny it anymore. We were two halves of the same storm, complementing and protecting, each instinct sharpening the other. When the last rogue fell, Elias turned toward me. His chest heaved, sweat glistening on his skin, eyes bright with adrenaline, and something more. Something vulnerable. You're incredible, he said, voice low, intimate. Not just your wolf, Lena. You. I felt the bond flare brighter than ever. And for a fleeting moment, I wanted to let it consume me. To step into the fire with him. To reveal the secrets I had kept buried for years. But the thought of revenge, the memories of rejection, and the careful walls I had built surged back. I stepped slightly away, heart pounding, wolf restless inside me. It's not about being incredible, I said softly. It's about surviving. And some things aren't meant to be trusted. Elias didn't step back. Instead, he leaned closer, close enough that the forest around us seemed to shrink, leaving only us and the bond that tied us together. Maybe some things, he murmured, are worth risking. Maybe some bonds are too strong to ignore. I swallowed, trembling, aware of how thin the line between survival and surrender had become. I had come for revenge, but the bond, pulsing and fierce, threatened to pull me into something I couldn't control. And for the first time, I realized that in trying to protect myself, I might lose myself entirely. Section 10. Fire in the shadows. The forest had changed. Smoke curled between the trees, and the distant crack of burning wood echoed like a warning that I had been tracking prey when I first noticed it. Trails of fire. Unnatural in their spread, licking at the underbrush. My wolf growled inside me, sharp and urgent. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Before I could assess it fully, Elias appeared beside me, moving with silent, lethal grace. "Lena," he said, voice calm but urgent. "There's trouble." I felt it the moment I crossed the ridge. "Stay close." My heart raced, not just from the threat, but from his presence. Every time he was near, the bond pulsed like wildfire, and my wolf twisted in anticipation. I tried to ignore it, try to focus. Survival came first. Always survival. The smoke thickened, stinging my eyes, and I realized the fire wasn't natural. Someone had set a trap. My instincts screamed danger, and Elias didn't wait for me to confirm it. He sprinted ahead, and I had no choice but to follow. Keeping low, blade ready, senses sharp, the rogue pack that had been trailing us for days emerged from the smoke. Red eyes glinting, teeth bared, they moved like shadows with lethal intent. "Lena," Elias called, positioning himself between me and the first of the rogues. "Now," I struck instinctively, blades flashing through the haze, cutting through the chaos with precision. Beside me, Elias was a whirlwind of power and control, every move calculated to protect, to dominate, to survive. Our motions intertwined without thought, instinctively complementing each other. The bond flared as we fought. I could feel him, every heartbeat, every shift in stance, every breath. My wolf leapt to the surface, demanding, roaring, desperate to merge with his strength. And yet, I restrained her, keeping my secret, keeping the edge I had trained so long to maintain. "Lena," behind me. Elias barked. A rogue lunged from the shadows, fangs aimed for my neck. I twisted, blade meeting shadow, but it was his hand on my arm that saved me. Strong, unyielding, a tether that grounded me. "Careful," he growled, voice low and dangerous. "I won't forgive mistakes like that." I swallowed, adrenaline surging, heart pounding. "I don't need forgiveness." I shot back, though my voice shook. "I need survival." He gave a short, sharp nod, eyes glinting in the smoke. "Good. Then fight with me, not against me." We moved as one, a deadly pair, each strike, each dodge, each breath perfectly aligned. And somewhere between the chaos, the fire, and the danger, I realized the impossible. I was beginning to trust him. Not just the alpha, not just the man who haunted my dreams, but Elias. The last rogue fell, collapsing into the ash and smoke. I dropped to my knees, chest heaving, sweat and soot streaking my face. Elias knelt beside me, brushing a stray lock of hair from my forehead. "You're insane," he said softly, almost a whisper, though there was admiration in the tone. "And I don't care how much I warned you. I'd follow you into hell." I met his gaze, golden eyes meeting mine across the bond. My wolf stirred, yearning, desperate to answer him, to claim him, to merge our fates. But I forced her down, keeping the edge, keeping the distance. "I survived," I said, voice trembling, though I tried to make it sound steady. "And I'll survive what's next, with or without you." He leaned closer, dangerously close, until the heat from his body brushed mine. "I don't want without me," he murmured. "Lena, you won't have to. Not if you let me in." For a moment, the forest, the fire, the smoke, they all faded. All that remained was us, the bond, the tension, the pull that neither of us could deny. And then, the wind shifted, carrying a new scent, something darker, more dangerous. A rival pack, larger, organized. They weren't rogues. They were hunting. Elias's eyes narrowed. "We need to move. Now." I rose to my feet, blade ready, wolf surging beneath my skin. I glanced at him. He was golden, fierce, terrifyingly beautiful in the way only an alpha could be. I felt the bond flare, unrelenting. "Together," I said, barely a whisper. "Together," he echoed. And in that moment, side by side, hearts racing, wolves howling in anticipation, we charged into the smoke, into the fire, into the unknown. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting, with him, for him, and perhaps, with the bond one had tried to resist for far too long. Section 11. Truth on the edge. The forest had never felt smaller. Every tree, every shadow, every whisper of wind seemed amplified, pressing against me like the weight of my own secrets. I ran beside Elias, matching his long, powerful strides, feeling the bond flare hotter with every heartbeat. My wolf clawed at my control, desperate, demanding. The air between us thrummed with tension, not just the danger of the rival pack pursuing us, but something more intimate, more dangerous. Lena, slow down. Elias barked, grabbing my arm to steady me as we ducked behind a fallen log. His eyes were golden fire, filled with concern and something I couldn't name. I shook my head, heart hammering. I can't. We're outnumbered. I need to. My words caught as I glanced at him, really glanced at him. The wind tousled his dark hair, and the way his chest rose and fell in that controlled rhythm made my wolf whimper with desire and longing. Elias studied me, his golden eyes narrowing. You're holding back. I forced a laugh, harsh and uneven. No, you're lying. His voice was soft, low, intimate, but it cut through me like a blade. I can feel it, Lena. Every heartbeat, every breath. You're hiding something. And it's not just your fight. You're hiding yourself from me. I froze. My wolf surged inside me, roaring, clawing, desperate to push forward, to answer him, to surrender. But I forced myself to retreat behind the wall I had built over years of survival and betrayal. You don't understand, I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. If you knew, if you saw who I really am. I trailed off, the words almost spilling from my lips. Almost. Elias stepped closer, closing the small gap between us. His heat brushed my arm, his presence so overwhelming I could barely think. Then show me, he said softly, almost a plea. Let me see you. I can handle it. Lena, I've waited too long to be kept at a distance. The bond throbbed, insistent, demanding. My wolf growled, warning me, begging me, craving connection. I could almost feel the truth pressing against my skin, burning to escape, but fear held me back. I can't, I whispered finally, voice breaking, though I tried to mask it. Not yet. If I do, everything falls apart. And I won't survive it either. Elias's gaze softened, golden fire dimming to something tender, patient, achingly human. You think I'll leave? He asked. You think I'll turn away because you trust me too little or too late? Lena, whatever it is, whatever secret you carry, I'm here. I've never left. And I won't. You don't have to fight alone anymore. My chest tightened. The words were almost too much, threatening to unravel the control I had kept so carefully for years. My wolf whined, desperate, hungry for the bond, for the alpha that had haunted every heartbeat of my life. I can't, I repeated, though my voice trembled. Every fiber of me wanted to yield, to fall into him, to let the bond claim us both. But I couldn't, not yet. Not until my revenge was complete. Not until he remembered exactly what he had lost. Elias reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face, his fingers warm, grounding, dangerous. Then let me wait, he whispered, so close I could feel the heat of his breath. But know this, Lena, the bond doesn't lie, and neither do I. One day, you won't be able to hide from me. And when that day comes, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. I knew. The bond would pull us together, whether I wanted it or not. I swallowed hard, heart hammering. And when that day comes, I began, then paused, biting back the rest. The truth, the full truth, hovered on my lips, tempting and dangerous. Elias's gaze softened further, almost unbearably tender. Yes, he prompted gently, but I stepped back, breaking the moment. I had to. I couldn't give him the key yet. Not when it would undo everything. Not today, I whispered, voice tight. Today we survive. That's all that matters. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded, his golden eyes fierce, unwavering. Survive, he agreed. But the bond doesn't wait, Lena. And neither do I. The forest around us seemed to exhale. Shadows stretched, leaves rustled, and my wolf whimpered beneath the skin. I knew, deep in my core, that the next encounter, whether forced by danger, desire, or fate, would strip away the walls I had built, leaving us exposed, vulnerable, and bound by something we could neither deny nor resist. I had come for revenge, but Elias was already in the process of claiming a part of me I hadn't intended to surrender. And when the time came to reveal my secret, I would have to decide, save my plan, or give my heart. Section 12. The Reckoning of Fire and Heart. The night was alive with silver light, the moon spilling like molten silver across the forest floor. Every shadow, every rustle of leaves, every whisper of wind seemed to hold its breath, waiting that I stood at the edge of the clearing, heart pounding, wolf surging beneath my skin. My hands were steady, but inside, every nerve screamed with anticipation. Tonight, everything would end, or everything would begin. Elias emerged from the trees, silent and inevitable, golden eyes blazing in the moonlight. He stopped a few feet away, muscles coiled, stance protective yet open. The bond flared between us, relentless, impossible to ignore. "I know," he said softly, voice low and intimate. "Whatever it is, whatever you've been hiding, I feel it. Lena, you can't hide from me anymore." I took a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill my lungs. "Elias, I should have told you sooner," I admitted, voice shaking, but carrying the weight of truth. "I wanted revenge. I wanted to make you feel what it was like to be abandoned, rejected, left behind. But my voice faltered. I also never stopped feeling what the bond demanded." His gaze softened, patience and desire mingling. "You don't have to explain, Lena. I know. I felt it. I've waited. And I'll wait until you trust me fully." The wolf inside me surged, claws against restraint, heart aching. I had come so far, trained so hard, survived so much. And yet, standing here, I realized that none of it mattered as much as this moment. Him, the bond, the truth between us. "I'm not just human," I whispered finally, stepping closer. "You've felt me, known me. But there's more. I'm a shifter too, Elias. I'm—" Before I could finish, he closed the space between us, golden eyes locking on mine. "Shoo," he murmured, voice rough with emotion. "I know. I felt it. And it doesn't change anything. If anything, it makes you us. Stronger." The bond flared brighter, unrelenting, claiming us both. My wolf cried out in triumph, pressing against his strength, finally able to relax. Finally able to merge with the one being who had haunted every heartbeat of my life. "You came back," he whispered, brushing his hand against my cheek, thumb tracing the line of my jaw. "You came back stronger, fiercer, and now you're mine. But not because you were rejected. Because you're everything I've ever needed." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. My walls crumbled, and for the first time in years, I surrendered. My hands slid along his chest, feeling the power, the warmth, the promise of safety and fire intertwined. "And you," I murmured, voice trembling. "You make me want to stop fighting, even when all I've lived for was revenge. You make me whole." He smiled, soft and fierce at the same time. "Then stop hiding. Let me in. Let the bond take what it's always meant to take." I closed the final distance, pressing my forehead to his, feeling the pulse of the bond, the rhythm of our hearts sinking. My wolf howled softly, a song of relief and triumph. And for the first time, I let myself feel it all: desire, trust, love, and the lingering ache of years of pain, finally soothed by the one person who could ever understand it. Then, the threat outside the clearing, the rival pack that had hunted us for weeks, erupted into the clearing, teeth bared, eyes blazing. But we didn't hesitate. Side by side, two shifters, bonded and unstoppable, we moved as one. Every strike, every dodge, every roar was in perfect sync. The danger that had loomed over us for so long became a crucible, forging our bond stronger, tighter, unbreakable. When the last threat fell, defeated, the forest seemed to exhale. Shadows retreating, moonlight bathing us in silver glow. Elias turned to me, breath ragged, eyes golden and soft. "You survived," he said. "We survived. And now, nothing can tear us apart." I smiled through tears I didn't bother to hide. "Nothing," I whispered. The bond pulsed, alive and triumphant, a force that had once haunted me with longing and fear. Now it was ours, claiming, protecting, promising. I pressed myself against him, letting every wall fall, every fear dissolve, every secret finally laid bare. I was rejected once, I admitted softly, my voice lost in the night air. But I returned stronger, for revenge. And yet, I trailed off, closing my eyes as the warmth of him enveloped me. The sweetest revenge was never what I imagined. It was this. You. Us. Elias leaned down, capturing my lips in a kiss that was both gentle and fierce, a claim and a promise, a beginning and an end. The bond flared around us, alive, vibrant, sealing the truth that had always been ours. In that moment, I understood. Revenge could have destroyed me, could have hardened my heart forever. But love, trust, and the bond we shared, that was stronger than any desire for vengeance. I pulled back slightly, resting my forehead against his chest, listening to the rhythm of his heartbeat. "I'm yours," I whispered. "All of me." He pressed a hand to my cheek, golden eyes burning with emotion. "And I'm yours," he said simply. "Always. Nothing you hide, nothing you fear, will ever change that." The forest around us was quiet now, moonlight spilling over the earth, mist curling gently among the trees. The fire within me, the wolf beneath my skin, the bond that had guided me through years of pain, it all burned with a single truth. Elias and I were no longer hunter and hunted, survivor and alpha, or avenger and victim. We were bonded, fierce, and unbreakable. The night held us, the forest watched, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled, not as a survivor, not as a fighter, but as a woman finally claimed by the one who had always been hers. And the world, vast and wild, could wait, because here, under the silver moon and the whispering trees, I was finally home.